The prairie had its own silence, not empty but layered, as if the land itself remembered every hoofbeat, every cry, every life that had crossed it. Elias Crow rode alone beneath a bruised sky, the smell of rain already in the wind. The storm had rolled in from the west, thick with thunder, flattening the grasses with invisible hands. His horse's breath steamed in the cooling air, and Elias pulled his coat tighter around him, leaning into the rhythm of the ride. Nights like this always unsettled him. They reminded him of the evening his wife had slipped away, the lightning splitting the dark while he knelt helpless beside her bed. He carried that storm in his chest still, years later, a wound that refused to close. He had nearly reached the river when he saw her, a figure crumpled in the reeds, half hidden by the wild sway of tall grass. He dismounted, boots sinking into the mud, and crouched beside her. She was older than he expected, her face carved by time and weather, her skin darkened by sun, her hair streaked with silver. Her breathing was shallow, her body trembling beneath a torn shawl. An Apache woman, he knew it at once, the pattern stitched into her clothing, the feathers woven into her hair, blood darkened her sleeve, a gash along her arm. "Easy now," Elias murmured, though he knew she couldn't hear him clearly. Her eyes fluttered open for a moment, black and sharp even in her weakness, and then closed again. He lifted her carefully, feeling her weight against him, lighter than he expected for a woman who seemed carved from the earth itself. The horse shifted uneasily as thunder cracked overhead. With effort, Elias hoisted her into the saddle and climbed up behind, holding her steady against him as he urged the horse into motion. The storm broke fully then, rain striking his face, soaking through his coat, lightning splitting the horizon like a warning. By the time he reached his ranch, the woman was half conscious. He laid her down near the fire, his own hands shaking as he cleaned the wound with what little whiskey he had left. She did not cry out, only watched him through half-closed lids, as if testing whether his touch was worthy of trust. When he wrapped her arm, she whispered something in her own tongue, soft, flowing, like water over stone. He did not understand, but the sound stayed with him. That night, Elias did not sleep. He sat in a chair by the fire, watching her chest rise and fall, wondering why the sight of her there felt like the first page of a story he had not meant to begin. Morning brought no peace. Word spread quickly, as it always did in towns where gossip moved faster than weather. Elias took the woman, Naomi Greyhawk, he would later learn, to the doctor in town. People turned their heads when he passed, whispers falling like dried leaves in his wake. At the doctor's office, the stares were sharper. Clara Vance, the widow who managed a dry goods store, watched from her porch with a smile too thin to be kind. Sheriff Boone Carter was less subtle. He met Elias at the doorway, his hand resting on the butt of his revolver as though habit had married suspicion. "You're taking chances, Crow," he said, low enough that Naomi couldn't hear. "This town's slow to forget. You want trouble, you're walking into it." "I found her bleeding by the river," Elias said. "I wasn't about to leave her there." Boone's eyes narrowed. Sometimes leaving things be is the wiser choice. The words landed like stones in Elias's gut. He thought of his wife again, how he had not been able to save her. He would not carry the same failure twice. "She stays until she's well enough to walk," he said, and pushed past him into the office. By the time Naomi was strong enough to sit by the fire, gossip had grown teeth. In the saloon, men muttered over cards. Elias Crow, too lonely for his own good, taking in a wild woman. Clara Vance told anyone who would listen that Elias's grief had turned to madness, that he meant to marry the Apache widow and drag the town into scandal. Elias heard it all. The words bit at him. But each time he considered sending Naomi away, he remembered the way her eyes had opened in the storm, sharp with life even in near death, and he knew he couldn't. It was on the fourth day that Marisol arrived. She came at dusk, her figure rising from the fading light like part of the land itself. Tall, her posture straight, her hair long and dark as river water, braided down her back. Her eyes, green threaded with brown, met Elias's with guarded fire. She carried herself with the dignity of one who had endured too much to bend easily. She stepped past him without a word, kneeling at Naomi's side, pressing her hands to her mother's face as though willing strength back into her body. Elias stood silently, watching the curve of her back, the way her shoulders shook once before stilling. When Naomi murmured her daughter's name, relief softened Marisol's features for the briefest moment. Then the mask returned. "Thank you," Marisol said finally, her English careful, accented but firm. She did not look at him as she spoke, but at the fire, as though the flames were safer. Elias nodded, unsure of his own voice. He wanted to say it was nothing, but it was not nothing. He wanted to ask where she had come from, what danger had driven them to his land, but the weight of her silence told him such questions would not be welcome. The days that followed settled into uneasy rhythm. Marisol tended to Naomi with tireless hands, grinding herbs, murmuring songs under her breath. At first she ignored Elias entirely, her eyes sliding past him as if he were no more than furniture. Yet small gestures began to surface. She swept the floor without being asked. She set a carved wooden figure, an eagle wings spread wide, on his table, saying nothing of it. Once, when Elias returned from mending the fence, he found fresh bread waiting on the counter. No note, no explanation, just a quiet mark of her presence. And he found himself watching. The way her hair slipped loose from its braid in the evenings, the strength in her hands as she lifted buckets from the well, the faint smile that ghosted her lips when Naomi teased her in their language. She spoke little to him, but her silence did not feel empty. It carried the same layered weight as the prairies, full of things unsaid but deeply alive. Something stirred in him he had not felt in years, not lust, not yet, but the fragile beginning of longing. Town judgment did not ease. If anything, it sharpened. At the mercantile, Clara Vance greeted him with sweet venom. "Buying for 2 households now, Elias?" she asked, her smile glinting like broken glass. "I hope you know what you're doing." In the saloon, laughter followed him, men mocking, calling Marisol his bought wife. Sheriff Boone found him one evening and said flatly, "Crow, you're gambling with your name. Folks don't forget." Elias felt the shame creep back, hot and merciless. He was no stranger to loneliness, but the scorn of the town pressed on him like a weight. Yet when he returned to the ranch, when he saw Marisol brushing his horse with slow, patient strokes, her hair catching the last light of the day, he found that the whispers mattered less. There was dignity in her silence, in the way she inhabited his home as though it had always been partly hers. It was Naomi who broke the stillness. One twilight, when the prairie lay stretched in amber light, and Marisol was outside gathering water, Naomi spoke. Her voice was hoarse but steady, her eyes fixed on Elias. "You want a wife?" she said. "Then take my daughter." The word struck him like a rifle shot. He stared at her, certain he had misheard. "What?" Naomi's gaze did not waver. "You saved my life. But more than that, you are a man who carries grief as if it is a burden you cannot put down. My daughter needs a man who will not trade her for coin or weakness. You need someone who will not leave you to your silence." Elias shook his head, his throat dry. "I can't. I failed my wife. I'm not." "You are not perfect," Naomi said, cutting him off. "Neither is love. But you are steady, and that steadiness is worth more than any vow spoken too easily." Her words sank deep, unsettling every truth Elias had clung to. He felt the old shame rise, the memory of his wife's last breath, the weight of not being enough. Yet beneath it was something else, something that had flickered each time he caught Marisol's eyes lingering on him longer than she meant to, a possibility he had long buried. Before he could answer, the door creaked. Marisol entered, setting down the bucket, her eyes moving from her mother to Elias with quiet suspicion. The air thickened, Naomi's words unspoken between them. Elias's chest tightened, torn between retreat and confession. And then Marisol's gaze held us a first time, not guarded, not dismissive, but searching. Her lips parted as if to speak, then close again. The silence stretched, heavy, intimate, full of things that could not yet be named. In that moment, Elias knew that nothing in his life will remain unchanged.